Greetings and God bless. I just wanted to make a suggestion to folks who are planning to move to other cities. Maybe you're moving from a suburb to a more lively area. Like I found during the lockdowns, being somewhere way out of the way was more demoralizing, just when everything was far away and there was no public transportation. So if you're kind of trying to leave a bad situation, but the day to day of the retreat, so to speak, is not working out for you, that becomes this whole other issue that you wouldn't have ever imagined. So I just wanted to share some observations. So I grew up in New York City. I never learned how to drive, and I do like places that have public transportation, or where there's a downtown and people are going there for a festival, or where there's the library and the post office and stuff like that. And what I have found is, number one, whether and when the property owners don't take care of the snow and ice for 8 months out of the year, so you can't really use the sidewalks safely. And then I don't know if this is a new thing, um, but the homeless situation, and I think it is new because it seems like there's just this overgrowth of homelessness and drug addiction, and um, police are just not getting involved. And this was before. I mean, when I was growing up in New York City in the 80s, kids in the projects would talk about how the police never came when something bad happened. And when I lived in the 90s in San Francisco, people in bad neighborhoods said that was the case as well. So, folks are trying to say, oh, all this police stuff is happening because of an ism. And this police stuff has been happening because that's just the nature. Like, police are not public servants. Like, uh, I think police need to say, "Hey, we're not police. We're not there to help the public. We are here to help private interests that pay a lot of taxes. We're just a little mafia." Like, I think, and then if people knew that you're really on your own, like you can call these guys, and if they feel like going to your area, they will. But if they don't want to, and who knows, maybe they're this mafia is out to get you. So folks need to realize that, like, number one, don't do stupid things that could cause you a serious injury. Like ambulance and police have better things to do than people being so irresponsible. And I know people are also on medications and they're out of their three sheets to the wind. And they shouldn't be driving, they shouldn't be operating a stove, or raising children. But here we are. So, and that's why we have community and other people around that should care. And we're seeing this decline of civilization because everybody's so atomized, everybody's so separated and alienated from family and friends. But I just wanted to talk about cities. So when property managers in places that have severe weather, they neglect their sidewalks. And so you can't really, let's say you move somewhere and you're like, oh, it has a cute little downtown. But if you can't safely walk in the downtown for 6 months out of the year, because it's like, I don't, it's, like Montana, South Dakota, very stressful, trying to enjoy the downtown during the winter time because there's ice everywhere. And then in when I was in South Dakota in Rapid City, there were homeless people. So apparently there's like this pimp that brings people from the reservations. So the reservation, so they'll have a bunch of homeless people that they bring from the reservation to be on street corners and corner people to shake them down for money. And then I think the pimp takes the money. I don't know. And this is what I heard from somebody else, because there'd be these groups. Like, I'd be a solo woman, it'd be 20 degrees, in Rapid City, and I'm like ice skating on the sidewalks trying to cross the street without an aggressive driver hitting me because they were too impatient to let me cross at my light. So you're having to juggle all this stuff, and then these drunk, drug addicted, mentally ill Native people are demanding reparations, and they're lurking in shadows and stuff like that, because they know people are trying to avoid them, and so they're like, well, they won't see me if I'm here, and the police are not there. I think I saw police in Rapid City the 2 years I was there. I think I saw them with their feet actually on the ground, on the sidewalk, maybe twice in the downtown, and the police station was 3 blocks away. So like, they're just very negligent, and they just and contrast that when I was in New York City. Like, everybody's trying to bash New York City, and yeah, New York City isn't perfect. It's a huge city, but I saw police like every other day on the sidewalk directing traffic or something. Just they were just around, and yeah, they weren't this fascistic force. There was this black guy yelling at these 2 blonde ladies, threatening to kill them or beat them up or something. Police didn't do anything. Okay, so folks are like, oh, defund them, but the police weren't even like defending these 2 white blonde ladies, who are being verbally assaulted by this angry black man. I think if maybe somebody was stabbed, maybe the police would do something, but and this is no credit to them for just standing while this black guy was, spitting vitriol at these 2 blonde ladies, and then the black guy started trying to verbally attack me, and the cops were there. There was like 3 cops. So, maybe there's some sort of balancing act that I do not understand. Nonetheless, I definitely feel better when there's cops there and some crazy man is verbally assaulting people. Because maybe, just maybe, the cop will do something. And this is because cops aren't there to help the public. Like, we need to stop being like, oh wow, cops are so great. No, they're just a paid mafia to work for whoever's the rich, influential person at the time. Nonetheless, I think there is something on a subliminal level that keeps some order when there is some type of cop or security or uniformed, even a rent a cop kind of thing. So and I kind of want to point that out, is that New York is like, everybody's like, oh, New York is the most terrifying, horriblest place, but I think I was in Republican places, and it was not. I didn't feel safer. I felt much more threatened than when I was walking around New York City at like 3 in the morning. So I really don't know what that's about. Maybe because I'm from New York, I just feel safer. Um, but yeah, like, Rapid City was just such a crappy experience as somebody who is trying to be downtown. Like, I don't hang out in malls. I don't find malls interesting. I like architecture. I like historic buildings. I like human scale, smaller, pre-industrial, pre-World War One kind of a walkability, and like, so there was the architecture, for instance, in Rapid, but the safety was not. It was just not there. And like, I would be doing a curfew, self-imposed curfew. I would not go be downtown outside after 3 p.m. if I could help it, anytime, whether it was winter, whether it was summertime. And then there'd be like these festivals, and there'd be all these people out, and all these homeless, aggressive homeless people just disappeared. I'm like, did do they get? Was it coordinated? Because it's like the people who worked downtown would have difficulties with the homeless people, uh, and nothing was done about it. But then when there was a festival, there'd be like cops, and those homeless people would not be around, um, or they'd be behaving or something like that. It's just really very distressing. So, like, if you're planning to move somewhere, look up the comments about like different websites that you're looking at that talk about people's personal experiences. And I would also look at reviews of places that people go to. So, like, what I noticed, so here in Denver, it's crazy. Um, like they're remodeling the library. So it's like 2023. They've been remodeling the library for like a year, and they plan to do it another year. Where did they get this money? Why do they need to remodel it right now? Remodel a library? Like when there's been crazy lockdowns, not enough money, budgets are being cut, but you're gonna do anyway. So trying to get to that library is like Escape from Alcatraz. They've got all this this chain link fence all around this library that takes up a block, and it's like it's a mystery. Try to find the entrance because they close the main entrance. They don't give you a they don't have a proper sign telling you where to go to enter the library. So libraries in cities are basically the community centers where locals that don't have a printer are printing something out or Xeroxing something. Parents go take, like get children's books there. People will check out DVDs or Blu-ray, and of course books, and use the computers. But this is also where during the day a homeless person can just chill out, take a break from the weather. And so what you want to look at are places like that and see what complaints there are about the homeless. Like here in Denver, you see complaints about the homeless at like in the reviews of the grocery stores, like Natural Grocers and Sprouts and Whole Foods, and like Whole Foods, like praise the Lord, there's a Whole Foods that's like right across from the Union Station, the light rail that goes to the airport. So that is awesome that you could, like, a lot of people are parking in they bring their luggage, and they eat a meal at Whole Foods and wait for their flight, and then they take the light rail to the airport. It is pretty awesome. But of course, like Whole Foods has been bought out by Amazon, and they have this smart device thing, so you can't go into their bathroom unless you have a smartphone. And like the main eating area is always like the same homeless people. It's really kind of sad. It's like a homeless cafeteria. I mean, and then there's like regular people who are, just they just bought a meal or they brought their lunch before they do their shopping. So, you know, there needs to be a place for homeless people to be safe and to get a meal and to purchase a meal. I mean, if they've made a purchase, they get to be there. Uh, and yet, when there's such a bad homeless situation, there's something the city is involved, the locals are involved. When I was in Rapid City, it was strange because Rapid City, South Dakota. Have you heard of it before I even told you about it? Like it's similar to Missoula, Montana. Like these are I moved to these places because I'm like, oh, let me go where I never really heard about. They're in the middle of nowhere, hard to get to places. There's probably going to be better rental opportunities. Not. Like I moved to Montana in 2013, and it had a less than 1% vacancy rate. There was no nothing available. I mean, pretty much nothing available because everybody would kind of grandfather somebody else in to the rental that they had, and the rentals that were available were like slums and overpriced. That's just the mentality now is to charge some crazy amount of money for a slum for a crummy living situation, and it's just not sustainable. And it drives people to drink and to drugs because they're tortured at home and they need to get to work. They need to be able to function at work, and so they're just like doped up to just you know just to be have a warm body, to have money to pay rent. I mean, it's this crazy, corrupt, evil system because like the workplace is torture, and then like the landlords don't like there's no protection for somebody trying to sleep. Whether it's noise, like light, like street lights. I was living in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, and they changed the street lights from the regular street lights to these crazy blazing lights. So there's three or four, and I had a blackout curtain that worked fine, but I had to put cardboard up because the street lights were so crazy bright that it was like my room was bright, even though I had a blackout curtain and light was out. So it's like uh, it's unlivable. Like the where you're trying to rent is unlivable and too expensive. Where you're trying to work, it's unlivable, and somebody's profiting from this. Like, and it's like this system wants to make people sick and crazy because they profit from it. Like people, it's like that's the industry. Go into be a homeless person, like a homeless profiteer. And who's a homeless profiteer? It's the city who's getting federal and state funding for the homeless situation that they're corruptly funneling away. Because they're certainly not spending $60,000 or whatever on that one individual homeless person. Like I keep on hearing statistics, and like this one place they $60,000 for each like homeless tent, and I think it was Oregon or something like that. So for a year, like the city was paying somebody was paying something for each plot, each tent on a pallet was $60,000. Like is how is this acceptable? But this is what's going on. It's like it's they're making more money than criminals are making, you know, because it wasn't just one homeless tent on a pallet that was 60,000. It was like 30, you know? I mean, like how does this happen? Like what's the logic? So there's incredible profiteering racket going on. Nobody's doing anything about it. Everybody knows about it. That's involved. That's sort of trying to help, but they can't say anything. So, so if you're trying to relocate, uh, uh, and like some cities just are negligent, like Denver. It's so sad. The homelessness here, the mental illness. It's just weird. Like there's this very weird flavor. I don't know if it's due to you know the third year of this mental virus that's gone on. Um, but for some reason, it's just really painful. Uh, and when I've been in New York, I've seen homeless people. When I've been in Rapid City, I've seen homeless people. I mean, I've seen homeless people everywhere. But here, for some reason in Colorado, it just seems so very sad, very traumatizing. I don't know. And so something I'm just realizing is like had no idea. I thought Denver was a place of health conscious people, outdoorsy people, and the people are outdoors, and that is awesome. Um, but the just lack of care or effective response for the chronic homeless people here is eerie. It's kind of creepy and it's repelling. Like I regret being in Denver. Um, so now what I will do is like I would love to move back to San Francisco, um, or maybe move back to Oregon, like Eugene or Corvallis or something like that. But the drug addiction and the mental illness is it seems to be big. But if there's just enough support for the homeless people, the mentally ill people, because that's what's needed is just And the thing is, though, when there's no place, no rental for them, like when there's nothing that they can afford, and I think it's ridiculous that somebody's getting paid $60,000 a year for somebody to have a tent on a pallet. I think that's criminal. But that's what where we're at. So things are just crazy. Things are just not doable because there's no place for people to live in major cities because everybody's warehousing the rentals. People are doing this, making too much money on Airbnb. I think it's scandalous. Um, this Airbnb is destroying housing for people, and people are just so greedy. And I mean, who am I to say? But like that, people think they have to live this really glamorous, fabulous lifestyle and make $300,000 a year, so they can be fancy, and it's like all these rich people are just subsidizing other rich people. Like all these rich people are just like, yeah, let's just have an elite rich experience, a gated community of wealth, and to hell with the working class people, to hell with the low income people. um, it, like there's just no conscience. It's not sustainable when wealthy people are hogging up all the resources, all the housing, um, and then they have the nerve to complain that nobody's working at the coffee shop or the grocery store or the gas station. If there's no place for an entry level worker to live, you can't complain. But these people will complain, and they're keep up with their Airbnb shenanigans, and so don't complain. If you make it impossible for an entry level worker to live in the area where you want an entry level worker to do this crummy job, there has to be housing. But nobody wants to have housing that people can afford. All these places that used to be housing, they become like a YMCA or an office building or whatever. But there's still that many people and more that are here, but there's no place for them to sleep. And then they're expected to live in a homeless shelter where it's like an absolute creepy post-apocalyptic, like satanic nightmare. It's anyway. So I recommend looking up Yelp reviews of cities that you're thinking about moving to, and Google reviews of cities you're thinking of moving to. The store that you're likely to patronize, the library, the post office. Like just look up reviews, see if there's anything written, and especially look for red flags that might be too, just not floating your boat. Like, you know aggressive homeless people, drug explicit drug use. Like that's what I see here in Denver. And I just saw this lady say that she saw that in San Francisco, and I never saw people using needles just like out on the street or in Portland, Oregon. But I did see it here, like the first few months I was here in Denver. So I don't know. I think there's just this weird trend, like there's a like I guess the culture in the past, and the thing is, there's no accountability. Like because cities are like, we're not gonna arrest anybody for outright drug use. So drug users are like, oh, this is my living room. I'm gonna do some drugs right here, and it's just so like people. It's just like the worst in people is like people are just being left to commit slow suicide in front of you, and so many people like that's like what city is not allowing their homeless mentally ill people commit suicide? Because that's what I'm seeing in cities is it's just a slow suicide of drug addiction and alcoholism and just poor decision making. I mean, people are out at 0 degree weather, no shoes here in Colorado, and I know I saw this in Boulder as well. It's just like, and people are so hard hearted. And yeah, I know these drug addicted people did something to themselves, but um, just saying I don't care is not going to help the situation. Blaming them is not going to help the situation. And I'm sure there's people in the world who have somehow addressed the drug addiction and homelessness in their city somewhat. I know I've seen articles about it, but it's too profitable. It's too profitable to have this constant catastrophe of homeless people just staggering around, lying on the sidewalk. It makes the city money somehow, but it's totally repugnant. Like when you're trying to just enjoy the day or go shopping and you're like navigating like prone people on the sidewalk, passed out people. I mean, life is hard enough as it is, and um, so, anyways, just where do we go? I mean, I'm thinking about maybe Utah is not so messed up, not so. I mean, I'm not a keen fan of Mormons, but maybe they have more social structure because yeah, I mean, like somehow New York City was a better place. I felt better in New York City, and I would say I didn't even like Albany. Like I felt more uncomfortable in upstate New York in some places than I did in the city of Manhattan. So it's not like the suburbs are any better because again, South Dakota wasn't very good. I mean, I did feel okay. I felt pretty safe in